Hello, everyone. So, as you know, for years and years and years, I've been saying about the state of defence force, and I've been warning, and I've been telling people, I've been pleading really to people to listen. Because, as I said, we never knew, and I said it one time before, and it stuck to me to this day. We never know what can come tomorrow. And look at the world we live in at the moment, which is very uncertain, and we don't have an army that is sustainable to defend our own country, and to defend our own lands, defend our own shores from any kind of threat. And obviously, it's successive governments, and obviously they were just up in the air and just didn't bother to pay the troops, and that's to be totally honest with you. It's not that they didn't have the money to pay the troops, but they had the money, but they were just not bothered. And it was too busy, they were too corrupt, and too didn't give a shit, to be totally honest, the politicians. And now, all of a sudden, the political establishment, the whole country's got a big waking up. In the Defence Forces report a few weeks ago, it said that the army at the moment, the Defence Forces threat, both naval and air and ground forces, are not sufficient to defend the state, to defend the Irish state as a whole. The numbers are not there, the equipment's not there. There's no such thing as air radar. There's no such thing. And I talk about this, and again, it needs a huge investment. Again, I would say nearly 5 to 3 billion, to be totally honest, because it's been left for a long time. It's just kind of been kicked to the shoulder, the defence of Ireland. It's been kicked away and left. And now all of a sudden people are realising, it's something that we actually didn't invest in for years and years and years, and we're years and years behind every other army nearly in Europe. Like even Luxembourg spends more on their defence than Ireland, and that tells you all you need to know. Luxembourg is a small country in the middle of NATO countries, in the middle of the European Union, spent more money on the army than, and you could say they're part of NATO, but they spent more money on the defence force than Ireland. And again, as neutral, and again, I don't say we should abandon neutrality or into that, but we need to have an army that's sufficient to defend our island. Because again, Ireland is a big island. We have to be admitted. It might look small on the map, but it's a huge coastline, and it's huge into the water surrounding it that the Irish naval need to patrol. And my advice, first of all, and I talked to somebody that knows a bit about the vets, we need to obviously first of all invest and pay the men first. That's what I say first. But anything else, whatever equipment and things like that, we need to pay them a decent sum of money. We need to pay them what they deserve, what these men and women deserve. That's the first step. That's the first step. It's going to cost a good bit, but that's the first step, and that will encourage other people to join. Because if we're going to give them shitty money, then we might as well disband the army at this stage. Because having people go and work for nothing, it's not good enough. Because these people want to make lives. These are people want to have lives. The bills to pay. And obviously the army is a good career. We should be saying to young people, this is the career for you, defending your country, defending everything that this country stands for, and defending your people, God forbid whoever comes. But that's what we should be saying. And obviously the second thing is, obviously we need to invest in the equipment. I'm not saying we should get tanks or things like that, but obviously we need to invest in anti-tank. We have a good few anti-tank weapons, but obviously we need to invest in anti-air weapons too, because we're critically lacking, particularly in the air. And I'm not saying we should get a huge amount of fighters and have hundreds of fighters lying around the country. I do think we should probably have maybe a few fighters, not a huge amount. But I do think the main thing we should do, because nowadays warfare really matters about who rules the sky, who has the sky, who has dominance in the sky. As you know, somebody can use a drone from Russia or from North Korea and bomb Ireland with a drone, unmanned drone, or even missile. You can launch a missile from the other side of the world. Again, this is warfare nowadays. This is warfare in the modern warfare, where people don't, technically armies compared to Ukraine, armies do march in and things like that, but we're on a different scale of warfare. And obviously we need to invest in radar. First of all, we need to know what's happening in the warfare. We need to have a fair good idea on what threats are going over and what planes are going over. We need to have military style radar that can pick up any missiles, God forbid, come towards Ireland, or any enemy planes that's over our skies, and to keep monitoring our skies. And obviously too, as I say, we do, I would say, a few fighters, not many. I don't think Ireland should have a huge air force, like as big as the RAF or anything like that. And obviously maybe a few attack helicopters might not come to either. And obviously I've been saying for the last good few years too, we need transport planes for soldiers who are suffering overseas. We don't have transport planes. We rely on the Royal Air Force. We rely on other air forces to bring our soldiers home. We need that, and obviously I think they're in the process of getting that. And obviously too, we do need anti-air surface missiles, SMAs, SAMs in other words, to take down around strategic locations, military bases, infrastructure, fighter infrastructure, power plants. As we've seen in Ukraine, missiles can hit infrastructure, but things to shoot down, basically to shoot down from the ground, The automatic SAMs, they can pick up missiles and shoot a missile at and blow it up in Mayo before it hits the target. Either it would be a military base or civilian infrastructure. Particularly in cities, we need to defend our cities. We need to be prepared for whatever comes, and that's to be totally honest. And the best defense is a good defense, and that's the best to do. We can't just pretend that we're going into an age that we don't know what can happen. And we never knew what could happen. And I always said to the people, we never knew what could happen in a minute's time for now, and in an hour's time. And we need to be prepared. My grandmother, God rest her soul, she fought for this country to be free, from British rule. And I'm sure many people's fathers and grandmothers stood up against the British occupiers 100 years ago, and stood and said they wanted the free nation, they wanted Ireland to be free. And by God, I think we should defend it, and we should nearly make whoever comes onto this island and invades this island bleed heavily if they're going to take this island. And that's what I say. Even though it's a God-forsaken island with what's happening at the moment in this country, we should not let their sacrifice go to waste. And that's as simple as that. But also, again, that's just what my strict point in saying that. But obviously, we do need that around transport hubs. We need that around food depots. We need that at the again. This is going to cost a lot of money, but it is beneficial for the defence of the state and the defence of the people of Ireland. I do think it's necessary. We need to take it serious. We can't stand around and wait for somebody to give it to us or anything like that. And again, as I say, it could have been a lot more cheaper if we progressed through the years and spent a decent bit now and again in the defence. But before, we never bothered to spend any money really seriously in defence. And now of a sudden the talk about spending money. But I do think it's going to cost a huge amount, probably cost 9 to 6 billion probably to invest, because again, it's a lot of money. It's been downgraded for a long time, defence. And it's going to take a lot of money to fund it again and to make it back up the strength. Particularly again, pay, as I say, is probably going to take $1 billion at least to get the pay conditions back and all that. It's a lot of money now. It is a lot of money, and it's unfortunate that it has to be spent. It's unfortunate that we live in the modern age that we don't know what could happen tomorrow. And we do have to defend it. But again, the next thing I say is about the naval service. We need to obviously to invest heavily in paying the people in the naval service. As you know, Ireland has bought 2 warships of New Zealand, which I'm very grateful for the New Zealand government. But the first thing I say is the ships docked in port, and this doesn't make sense. There's naval ships, the patrol vessels of the Irish Navy docked in port, and they have no manpower to go out and patrol Irish waters. Now, first of all, I would say, I welcome obviously buying 2 new ships to add to the fleet. We need as many ships as we can, because again, as you know, Ireland has a huge amount of water surrounding it. We have a lot to patrol to keep our waters safe from illegal drug traffickers to legal arms travellers to illegal immigrants coming in on boats. We have a lot to protect. And then obviously illegal fishing and everything like that. We have to protect our waters. We have to be ready to protect our waters. And obviously, the first thing we need to do is man the ships, pay the people to man the ships, for God's sake. And then obviously we can obviously try and encourage more people to join the Navy by obviously giving them better wages, giving them better conditions. Next thing we do, obviously we need to obviously get a few more ships. But the next thing I would say is that we need to probably have coastal defence systems. What I mean by coastal defence systems, coastal artillery. So we can bomb a ship into literally an enemy ship that comes along the coast, like the Russian ships that came here that were in our water. We could bomb them to Kingdom Come from the shore, if they come near our island. Not saying that we should probably bomb the Russians that time, but you know what I'm saying. But again, as I say, that would be utterly ridiculous. But the main set is ports, particularly ports, Cork Port, Dublin Port, have them there in main ports, because they're not just going to land on the beach. They're going to land at the port. They're going to try and take a port. That is what modern warfare is, about logistics. And again, if we can cut their logistics too, if we can sink their transport ships or sink the transport planes, then, because again, the army marches on its stomach, and if we can cut the supply, because again, particularly in Ireland, there's very little they can do when you destroy their ability to supply themselves. You can neutralize the enemy. But again, it does take a lot of work. But again, this is all, this is what I see. This is what I see over the time. We need to invest obviously in that. And obviously we need to have a lot more coastal army barracks too. Because a lot of the army barracks too, like in Athlone, Bundone's on the coast, the army barracks in Bundone. But we need to have a lot more. I would need to suggest that we should probably open up the Cavan army barracks and whatever army barracks was closed during the recession and put more soldiers into it. To strengthen the army, to strengthen the defence forces. Right across the country, particularly in the coast. I do think we should strengthen it a lot more on the coast. but I do think we need more men. And I do suggest, and this is the last thing, I do suggest that we should be probably going on to 25,000 men active in the Irish Defence Forces compared to 8,000. As you know, 8,000 is very insufficient for a population of 5,000. As you know, Finland even has more people in its army. It's 30,000, I think, active. For it's about 5 million people. Again, Ireland is the paddy last, if you may use that. And obviously this is for the benefit of the state and defend the state, because we won't, and I simply say this to people, we won't let anybody come into our country and subjugate us for another 100 years, and for 800, for God knows how many more 100 years. We won't allow it, and our grandfathers and fathers fought for this country to be free, and we should, God forsaken, fight for it. Whatever the state the country's in at the moment, we're not going to let those sacrifices go to waste. If it ever does come to this, hopefully, please God, and I'm speaking, and never will have to come to that. But we will make whoever comes suffer dearly for coming near this island. But that's what I just say to you. And we need that message to go out loud and clear to anybody that threatens us, that we're ready to bleed you to death. To bleed as many, whoever you send at us, we're going to bleed you to death if you invade our island. That's what needs to be said. Thank you.